Alrighty, welcome to Kabbalah of Adam. Today we get to study Torah for the sake of heaven, for the sake of Israel and all of Jerusalem. We'd like to give the merit of our study in Torah to all those who are affected by the mayhem that's going on in the world today, all across the world. Those who are suffering, those who have lost their lives, and those who have lost all their property and businesses, and the COVID deal. I mean, goodness gracious. Ruler of the universe, master of all masters, Father of mercy and forgiveness, we thank you, our God and the God of our fathers, by bowing down and kneeling, that you brought us closer to your Torah and your holy work, and that you enable us to take part in the secrets of your holy Torah. How worthy are we that you grant us with such a big favor. That is the reason we plead before you, that you will forgive and acquit all of our sins, and they should not bring separation between you and us. And may it be your will before you, our God and the God of our fathers, that you awaken and prepare our hearts to love and revere you, and may you listen to our utterances and open our closed heart to the hidden studies of your Torah. And may our study be pleasant before your place of honor, as a aroma of sweet incense, and may you emanate to us light from the source of our soul to all of our being. And may the sparks of your holy servants, through which you revealed your wisdom to the world, shine. And may their merit and the merit of their fathers and the merit of their Torah and holiness support us, so we shall not stumble through our study, and by their merit enlighten our eyes in our learning as stated by the sweet singer of Israel, King David. Open my eyes so I see wonders from your Torah, because from his mouth God gives wisdom and understanding. May the utterance of my mouth and the thoughts of my heart find favor before you, God, my strength and my Redeemer. Amen. All righty, we're getting into the class 3 of Solomon, and we were in Gittin 68, right in there last time. I am not going to read all that again. If you are just watching this class for the first time, you really need to watch class 2, Solomon class 2, and get the Gemara from Gittin 67b3 all the way through the end where it's talking through Solomon. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start where we left off, and a lot of these little pieces that I have in here are either kasha questions that are mentioned throughout all the sources that we looked up, and answers from a lot of the sources that we looked up, some Midrash Rabbah stuff, which is very agadic type material. And we are trying to figure out what in the world Solomon is doing. Why does our Mishnah want to tell us that during this craziness that this guy's maybe going through, not in his right mind, that all of a sudden goes right into demons and wine. We have wine and demons and all these different things, and Ashmedai. And the more we are learning about Solomon and asking the question, what is he doing with Ashmedai, the more we're going to have to go learn about Ashmedai. So next week, what we're going to do is we're going to dive into Ashmedai and a bunch of demonology type stuff and try to figure out what that side is doing. And as we go through the stuff today, you will see, you'll have a better clarification, better picture, I guess, of why we have to go there, and because we're trying to figure out everything about Solomon. He needs to subdue Ashmedai. He's got all these demons that play music for him. His wife brings her demons up from Egypt, and they're playing music. This is one of his breakdowns that we find. He's got to find the shamir to cut the stone, but are we saying that Solomon doesn't know where that's at? They're using certain artifacts, as we found out last week, staff, rings, chains, all these different cloaks, all these different stuff. But it's all ultimately centering around one thing, and that's building the temple. So all this has to do with, at some point, building the temple. where do these things come from? Why is Ashmedai king of the demons and we're not dealing with Samael? When did all this begin? Because we know that the Satan is that whole thing is created on the first day of creation. We have problem now. What were the bad Uzzah and Azazel? These guys are created before Adam. These guys were there before Adam HaRishon. Where do they come from? What is it? So now we're going to have to eventually take this thing back all the way to the Ein Sof, to the Or Ein Sof, and figure it out from even that point, which we're going to get to. And now we're going to find there's going to be a piece of spirituality and transcendence that's now going to enter into physicality. And we will find out that we are the only thing that's ever been created that is both physical, complete physical, and both complete spiritual. That's what makes us so different than anything else. And you know, Solomon's delving in the in-between, and even in the Talmud, you know, these guys are talking to demons. And Yosef the Shadim said to Rav Yosef, there's all this sort of stories going in there. It's not an uncommon thing. So what is going on? That's what we're trying to figure out. We're on an investigation into not only creation, but dimensionality, hierarchy, the dance of Hasidim and Gevurot. So as I go through this, the thing that I do, the way I learn it, is I try to think of all the things I've heard before, or read before, or learned before, or known before, and put them on my proverbial board and say, okay, there's a piece, there's a piece, there's a piece, and then start trying to put them all together and start trying to crack the code. I think by the end of the day today that we crack the code of codes. We shall see, because we're going to continue looking into this. One of the big difficulties is there's a lot written about Solomon and all this stuff, but there's not a lot of commentary, because it's such a very taboo topic. You know, it's how does a king rise and fall? And he is the king. He's Mashiach ben David. He's all these things. How does that happen? It's not, the stories are so weird and not typical Torah stories. How do we work our way through them? So anyway, with that, let's get rolling. So I left off here understanding that Ashmedai's name is Aish Adomi, basically Adomic fire. All right? So we kind of left off with that. So why did Solomon give him the ring and the chain? Both had the Shem HaMifaresh on it, the divine name, the ineffable name. Why are we using wool and wineskin? Both wool and wineskin are Gevurot. You know, so we've got, we're binding him around his neck at the area of Gevurot, chain around his neck. What's the ring for? And why are we giving him wine, and then we're putting wool in there and emptying out the water and doing all these things? So what are they trying to teach us? What are they revealing and concealing at the same time through the Agadata? The chain was to bind him so that he wouldn't run away. In other words, he was mitigating him, right? And the ring was to guard himself. He used the ring to what is called to jump the wave. We know that as teleportation. Now, there's a kasha. How did they dig the holes in the solid rock where he lived, and you know, all this stuff? And the answer was with the ring. And so there must be some sort of teleportatic, I guess if that's a word, you know, things going on. What's a rock? What's a hole? What's all these things that he's doing? We know there's good wine and there's the dregs of wine. Everything is known in the Supernal Yeshiva that Ashmedai would go learn at every night and come down every night. But we know that was Solomon that would go learn. And so we've already said that Solomon, this is really the backside of Solomon, but yet we're also going to say it is a complete other entity in and of itself, because we're going to study it that way. But we know it's the dance of Hasidim and Guvarot. And one of the kashas is, you know, he would go in there and sleep. Why do demons sleep? You know, do angels sleep? What's the difference between a demon and an angel? Is that just a bad angel, or is it something completely different? How could he do this? When he sleeps, he is in the form of a man. It removes the power of the shading. He remains human. So to the world, they thought he was a regular man and didn't know he was Ashmedai. So if they saw him sleeping, they thought, oh, well, there's this guy. And so that brings us to, there's a deal in Kabbalah that you wash your hands every morning when you wake up, correct? And all Jews do it. Why do you wash your hands when you wake up in the mornings? Because your soul leaves at night, and when your soul leaves at night, those, we'll call them demons, but those negative forces enter in, and when your soul returns, they leave out of your fingers. And so you wash your hands 3 times, right? Guvarot, Hasidim, Guvarot, Hasidim, Guvarot, Hasidim, like that. But you're also supposed to do your feet, because it does the feet at the same time. But nobody does the feet. They only do the hands. Why? Because that's where you eat. So there's a lot of things that they do still to this day, and it has to do with demons. The whole washing your hands thing is a prime example. When Solomon removed the chains, he empowered, the power returned. And he saw the wings of Ashmedai. And there's a deal that's in Hagiga there that's talking about the wings. Let's see that's Pesakim. Hagiga. If y'all want to look at this at home. Hagiga 16a1. Rabbis taught there are 6 characteristics, those regarding demons. 3 are like angels, 3 are like human beings. 1, demons have wings like ministering angels. The demons fly from one end of the world to the other like ministering angels. And demons, 3, and demons know what is destined to be in the future, just like ministering angels. So there's a lot of similarities in there. And so it says that one of the wings went to heaven and the other one went to earth in order to swallow Solomon and spit him out. And he threw him 400 parsongs. What do we know about 400? It's the number of the Klippa, you know. So he threw him out of the borders of Israel. So we know what Solomon's working. Solomon's doing this on purpose so that he can use that energy to get thrown into the deepest part that he needs to go. Or is it Solomon getting whipped, you know, getting beat up, so to speak? So he threw him out of the borders of Israel. Why is he receiving this punishment? The answer is because he loved foreign women. And the women are compared to demons. So did he love the demons or did he love the women? As the sages say about Hava, She grew her hair like Lilith. And the horses. Horses are like demons as well. Why? Because teleportation is done through the shadim. In order to perform teleportation, as Jacob did from Beersheba to the Makom. So Jacob is doing the same thing. It utilizes the realm of the shadim to travel like horses. So the whole thing about the horses and the women and all this stuff, this is just aspects of shadim as well. Let it be he had horses. Let it be he had women. But he's all working on the shade level. Masculine, feminine. He's working with the Hasidim and the Guvarot. Rashi says, the feet of the shade are like a chicken. A shade cannot conceal his feet, because the sole of a foot clings to the dust, as the feet do to the earth. Therefore, the tuma of the shade is stronger in his feet. That is why he visited them in their nida. In the Gemara, remember, they were asking, does Solomon come visit you? And his buddy said, no, he doesn't come visit me. And then the women say, does he come visit you? Only in our nida, you know. So, which is their menstrual cycle. So there's something going on there with this. They're teaching us a backside lesson, of course. A woman who has union with a shade, is it permitted or not permitted to her husband? This is a question. If forbidden, then how would Ashmedai have union with a woman? As it says, he was a Jewish shade. So remember from last week, we have Jewish demons and non-Jewish demons. Why are there races of demons? Why do we know he was Jewish? He didn't want to drink the wine. They're just building this whole thing up. Only by breaking the law could he do this. Only a succubus could do this. If a male demon was in union with a married woman, then there's no prohibition. Rav versus Shmuel. Because he was a king, or was he a commoner? Did he rule or did he not rule? Was it the rule of a shade, and did he rule the people? So they're saying, okay, did Solomon do this? Did Ashmedai do that? Did he do this as king? And did he rule the people? So did Ashmedai rule? Did Solomon rule? Was it the same thing? What all is going on with this deal? And then it gets into Solomon's bed. Solomon's bed is obviously Yesod, and it says that he had 60 mighty men in the Gemara that with their sword at their thigh. So that is all Yesod energy. The bed, the sword, the 60. The Arizal says that Shlomo's bed, the 60, is in the area realm of Yetzirah. It's talking about in the area of Yetzirah. It's 6 times the 10, which is Yesod times the 10 Sferot. Also, I believe it's in Song of Songs, where it says she has 60 handmaidens and all this. So he's got 60, and the Shekhinah, she's got 60, guarding her in this shade realm, from the shade realm, so to speak. So there are 2 sets of 60. This is 120 permutations of Elohim. The 60 of the lower fight the Hitzonim. These are the 60 queens, and there's 60 men that surround his bed. This is the Malchut of Zeranpin, who Shlomo is to him. These 60 remove the tuma of the other side, the evil force of the other, that we'll call it the contamination of the other side. And the word behold, because it says behold, there were 60 men around his bed type of deal. Hine, the word behold in Hebrew, hine is 60. So every time we see in Torah, it says, behold, an angel of the Lord said to him, this is the 60. This is all a part of this angelic realm, demonic realm that is always working. The piece starts with demons, but it ends with his bed. This whole piece starts with demons, and then the very end, it ends with Solomon's bed. So we know there's carnality energy going on. That's why Solomon is such a taboo area to go into, because it's all it is sex and demons and rock and roll. You know, he's got music and he's got women and it's demonic, right? But he's building the temple. So what is going on? The queens of the 60. They are pulling out the bearer of Ashmedai. They're doing the extraction, because if he's having union with them, they're pulling out anything that would be of any worth. The Nida in the Klippa is drawn to the Klippa. So they're doing it in their Nida, and that's what's drawing him. A bird, feather flock together, right? So they're even using that to do the bearer. It is known as waste removal. They're removing the waste. The secret of the commoner down to the feet, the Malchut, and also Bathsheba. The lower Ema is the mother of the seven. Koheles says, there is a time where the bad man rules over the good. In Koheles, there's a time when the bad man rules over the good. There's a time when this bad that we have going on right now is happening and ruling over the good man. Why? Because Koheles means to gather. It's gathering all of the good, all the holy nitzot sparks that are in those people, to where there's nothing left. It says, it would have been better for King Solomon to be a cleaner of drains, a plumber, a cleaner of cesspools, than to have what is written about him. Right? What are they revealing and what are they concealing? They are concealing the fact of what he did. They're revealing where he went, what he did. That he is literally going into the backside as far as he can. This is the women, the horses, the demons, everything. And he is literally pulling out all the nitzot sparks. And there was a question that I had today with Rabbi, and we resolved it on one level, but it's still kind of open-ended, because it says that in Chronicles that Solomon sat on the throne of Hashem. That is a big statement. So and it says, and Ashmedai sat on Solomon's throne. So the king of demons is sitting on the throne of Hashem. And so we know in our Torah that you always have to pay the backside off. Like in the Zohar, it says that the angel of Ishmael comes before the Holy One and says, I have circumcision. And he says, yes, you do. You have Mila, but no Priya. So you have a partial circumcision. He says, but even though I have a partial circumcision, do I not have a circumcision? Yes, you do. So the angel, the Sar of Ishmael and Hashem are going back and forth. He said, well, therefore, I should have my right to have the Evan Shtia. And he says, okay, you can have the Evan Shtia for times and a half. What, you know, one of those formulas like it's in Daniel. And therefore, when that happened, that's when the dome went over the rock, and Islam has their SAR. That's why nobody can mess with it, because it's a SAR thing. You can't go up there and say, okay, we're taking it back because it's angelically ruled. You know, okay, we're the Jews and whatever. We're going to go up there with a bulldozer and an army and take it back, because the SAR won't let you. But as soon as he removes that SAR, then you can walk up there and take it. It's going to be a no big deal. They're not going to want it anymore. All right? Same thing going on a little bit here with Solomon. Is Solomon paying off that side so that it can never say it never sat on the throne? So he's always moving and working and mitigating, extracting sparks, getting payoff. Secret of Yom Kippur is the scapegoat. You got to have the scapegoat for Azazel. You got to pay that other side off. It has to get its pay. So just things to think about. But we know that Solomon is working in the sewers. We also know that the 1,000 musical instruments that his wife brought from Egypt, one of the issues it says, and the wives turned his heart, was because he let these people come in on the inside. Most of the music was on the outside, but these people are now on the inside in his house. In other words, so he got probably a little careless, and it got out of hand right there. And as we've read before, they swayed his heart, they swayed his heart, they swayed his heart, that whole deal. But sway means to incline this way, means to incline to a direction. What is he doing? He's inclining to the edge, and that's the only way he can do it. He's allowing this to happen because he's doing work in the klipa of the klipa called the sewers. Where is Yeshu Hanotri? Where is Bilam? You see? In Gittin 57, they are in the Gehenna of feces. So, when they were in the desert, how did they get them to worship the idols? They had to defecate on the idol, to sleep with the women. So, even though it's immensely right here with Solomon, all this language, we see blips of it all the way through the Torah, really, if we throw it on our proverbial whiteboard. Now, we read in the Gemara about him, he's taking the brick. He's putting the brick on, taking the brick off, Ashmedai. The word brick, what is going on with the brick? The brick term is Levana. It means white. I guess when they cooked the bricks, the clay would blanch more white. Levana is the Sitra Akra, and talks about it in Sota. Do not be like Elisha. And here's this is in Sota. Do not be like Elisha that pushed away Gehazi. He pushed Gehazi away 3 times, and Gehazi rebelled against him. And Gehazi is one of those, the 3 kings and the 4 commoners. He's one of the 4 commoners that lost his share in the world to come. And Gehazi is the sole Gilgal of Yeshu Hanotri. So, and it says, or do not be like Yehoshua ben Harakiah. This was Yeshu Hanotri's rabbi. And the story goes in the Gemara that Yeshu Hanotri, he pushed him away a couple times, and then he realized, okay, maybe this guy's really going to want to come and learn and be a righteous Torah mamzer and all this. I mean, the Gemara knows who Jesus is, and those rabbis know exactly who he is. But the Gemara says he came in on his rabbi during the Shema, and he had his eyes covered. But he didn't know he was doing the Shema. And so as he was doing the Shema, he kind of brushed him away so he could finish his Shema. And he took it as he was telling him to leave. And the Gemara says that he went out and set up a brick and worshiped it. What is that? So Ashmedai here is working with the Sitra Akra. In Egypt, they told him, use bricks. Why? The Pharaoh is an Akash working on the other side. It's all this demonic energy, building bricks, doing this, doing that. Sitra Akra, Yetzirah. It's all these systems that are working that we always see. And we find out then Yeshu HaNotri, he sets up a brick and worships it. All right? So what did he really worship a brick? It doesn't matter. It means the Sitra Akra took him over. The brick was to them in place of the Even Shtia. The rock is that the builders rejected has now become the foundation stone. And see how they take Even Shtia, which is Yesod, which is all the supernal good side, and turn it into an actual brick. Now he's a cornerstone. Now Jesus is the brick, or this guy's the brick. They gave rain to the Sitra Akra instead of the foundation stone. The word Levana is the gematria of Samael and Lilith with the Koel. Solomon tells Ashmedai, he goes, what do you want from me? He goes, I don't want anything from you. I want nothing from you but to do good to build the temple. So whatever he's doing, he doesn't want anything from the Sitra Akra. He doesn't want, but what he wants from him, there's something that he has that he needed from this realm of forces that was going to enable him to build the temple. And he tells him that he doesn't he doesn't know where it is, but it's in the sea. You know, this Shamir is in the sea. It's held by that aspect. And the sea is Ema, but this is the dinim of Ema. So there's a whole Partsuf now going on, because we have Zah and Nook and 1,000, which is the whole Partsuf from 1 to Keter. So we have 1,000 going on. We have Guvarot with horses, wine, wool. He's working on sewer. We got all this side working, but somehow out of this thing is going to come the temple. Why did he keep him waiting for 3 days? Why did Solomon keep Ashmedai waiting for 3 days? Because he wanted to show that he is distinct from him. It makes a clear distinction. So the first thing he does is tell him he was drinking, because drinking is of the nephesh. The second thing he told him was he was eating. Eating is of the ruach, because the nephesh is the soul, and the ruach in the eating is the aspect of the physical body, the breath. All right? So now Solomon's working on a soul level, from nephesh to ruach, and from the soul and the body. So there's some kind of transference going on with Solomon and Ashmedai, even during these 3 days that he's not meeting with him, because he's playing with bricks over here, and Solomon's telling him he's drunk. Now Solomon's telling him he's too full. The sar of the sea, the yam, that keeps the shamir, it is for the splitting of a mountain. The shamir is for splitting of a mountain. What do we know as the mountain? The mountain is Imabina, right? But he only lets but the sar only lets this out to the bird that we learned. We learned how he captured the bird and put it under glass and made him drop the shamir, the worm, right, and caught him. A gever is known as a rooster. A gever is also known as a strong man. So Ashmedai had feet of a rooster. So who had the shamir? You see how we can, there's lots of things going on here, but it's in such a dimensional world, you can't just point at it and say, well, that's it. because there's many things happening. When Solomon wanted to know power of the shade, but they have nothing of their own, only what people give them. Because you are an image of God, Shaddai, versus shade, which you have to feed, and this can be fed through spilling a seed and whatever, right? The inner lining is concealed by the outer lining. The completion of Solomon was that he was in control of his own shade energy, his shadow self. This is the backside of yourself. So just as Solomon was dealing with his own backside, perfecting it, wrangling it, letting it have, then giving it back power, and constantly doing an exchange, so we wrestle with ours too. We have no idea we're probably even doing it. Because Adam has dominion of fish in the sea and birds of heaven. And we learned through Rob Volley that those are angelic realms already through our study in Breshit. Solomon had this, and he had rule of the dimensions and I'm going to use the term demon mentions, even the dimensions of demonic. So Ecclesiastes, let's go to Ecclesiastes right quick like. What we're heading into is really an area that I haven't spent much time, because when you get into Torah, the thing you don't want to mess with is demons, right? And now here we're going into an aspect of demons that are male, female. They have race. They have all different sorts of things. All right. But if you think about it, most of us were Christians at one time. So it's very easy for us to debate a Christian because we know where they're going, because we were that. So it's a little more difficult for a Jew to do it, because they're not going to argue with you about it anyway. So same thing with demons. Solomon was only one of the only guys that actually went over there and immersed himself in it and worked on it and figured it out and was able to control it. Most of them aren't going to touch it at all. There's a story of the Gaon of Vilna where a demon comes up to him and he's throwing, spitting, and and cursing and doing all this, and he says, I'm not going to talk to you. I've never dealt with your kind, and I never will. So there's a lot of history here going on, and if it weren't for Solomon probably doing what he did when he did it, they would have a whole lot more power and control probably today than they do. Because once he's taken that, fed it, gave it the other, done everything that he needed to do, it can't come before Hashem and say, well, I never got that opportunity. So, Ecclesiastes 2:12, go to there. It says, then I turned my attention to appraising wisdom with madness and folly. For what can man, and that man there is Adam, for what can man who comes after the king do? Now this is very important to where we are in our discussion right now. Why would Solomon talk so ambiguous right here? I turned my attention to appraising wisdom with madness and folly. What does that mean? For what can man who comes after the king do? This is a huge code right here in the middle of this. This is the secret of front side and back side. What can he do? What he did do, you can't really put your finger on it, as we've been trying to. You know, we can say, well, it was this, and it was kind of doing this, and it was kind of doing this, it's kind of that, because we're trying to explain something that is non-dimensional and give it a space, and it's very, very hard. Because every time you touch it, it inverts on itself. It says, I turned to see Hokmah, wisdom. You can read it as one phrase versus juxtaposing it to itself. It can also be read as, this is the investigation of wisdom, madness and folly. Who are madness and folly? That is the Sitra Achra. Madness and folly is the Sitra Achra. Back to our Mishnah, the guy went mad, and that's where the whole demon thing. This is so. What is he saying here? He's the wisest of all people. I have to literally turn to the backside to see it. The only way for you to combat Christians on Facebook is you got to go to a Christian debate page. You have to literally turn yourself from Torah page to a Christian page. So Solomon literally, to do this, he had to turn from Hokmah and look that way. He is teaching you front side, back side immediately. The Midrash says in Exodus, in Vayera, chapter 1, Hashem spoke to Moses, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. I turned to see, and it says, I turned to see wisdom, and this is, they're bringing a comparison here in the Midrash. I turned to see wisdom, madness, and folly. They then compare Moses to Solomon. You remember Moses said, I will now turn aside to see this sight? Hashem told them, and then the Midrash goes on, Hashem told them, do not increase horses, women, etc., and everything. And then it's called ETL, God, what God's doing with these men. In Kings 11, when Solomon became older, it says they turned his heart. See, there's the turning again. They turned his heart. It would have been better that Solomon was cleaning sewers. That then this piece had been written about him in Torah. So then he wrote, I turned to see, Solomon wrote, I turned to see madness and folly. Because the backside is waste. Paniti, turning the face. Panit, it's come from the word like panim. The term to turn comes from the same root as pan or panim. The word lephenot, to turn, means to relieve oneself, as going to the bathroom. So you see what Solomon's encoding right here? I turned my face, but I'm also going into the waste. I'm relieving myself. There's all of this stuff has happened in creation, because at the shattering of the vessels, the tohu is nothing but waste, and we live in the middle of it. It says, this is the way of one who is immersed in carnality. In other words, somebody who has immersed themselves in carnality, let's say they're an adult film star, right? That would be somebody who has immersed themselves in carnality. They are known in Torah as cleaning the sewers. They're the sewers. So in everything Solomon is doing here, everything has a code, a sequence, and a purpose. If you continue to read Ecclesiastes, starting with chapter 3, time to be born, time to die, time to plant, time to uproot the planted, time to kill, time to heal, time to wreck, time to build, time to weep, time to laugh. It keeps going on. What is he showing you? Front side, backside, front side, backside, front side, backside. That's all. He's giving us the map of all of creation. The angels, even the demons that were playing in his room, that is where he got the Song of Songs from. And there's 8 verses in Song of Songs. What are the 8 verses? For Havayah, the 4 letters of Adonai. That's the union. But that song and that whole riff or whatever he got he's pulling that out of them, creating the Song of Songs. I was black and comely. Why? The Shekhinah is in the tohu. She's got the sewer on her. He goes, no, but inside you're beautiful. You're comely, right? He's working the whole thing. It's unbelievable. And then the next word, kiss. He's kissing with the kisses. This is Zah and Nook, working the whole system. And he is including himself in Shir HaShirim. Me, Shlomo, right? I mean, remember that he heard the Song of Songs from the Malakim. Why are there 8 chapters? Because he is the 8th king. He is Hadar in Genesis. Chapter 36, the 7 kings of the Tohu of Edom, and Hadar is Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon. He's the 8th king. The design of Hashem, of what's going on through all space-time, is so far beyond what we can even conceive. The 8th Sphirot is also Hod, that her feet descend to death. So he has to work in that area. He has to work in that area. If you take Hod and read it backwards, it's Daveh, which is death, which is the sewers. It's inverting on itself all the time. That's why we can never put it down and say, oh, well, I know exactly what Solomon's doing. Because as soon as you see this, well, it's already flipped over here again. He was working on the nitzots of Adam Blia'al, the backside Adam. That's why it says in the verse, what can Adam, who comes after the king, do? He fixed Adam Blia'al. He can't do anything after he's done. That's not Adam HaRishon, that's Blia'al. He knows, so he's turning aside to go to the sewers, to go to the backside, Adam Blia'al, because when he's done with him, there ain't nothing he can do. Rav Ali says, it is literally turning away from wisdom to go to the backside. He is going into the corresponding backside as well as his own backside. Chokmah, turn from, because he was face to face. Its backside is called vanities of the world, which is known as madness and folly, the Sitra Achra. He has to literally turn away to look at it. You can be in both at the same time. He has to grasp the inner lining to pull it back in. He is now not looking at wisdom alone, but is also looking at madness. To know a thing is to know its opposite. So that's why I said we have to go into Ashmedai next week, because unless we know everything about Ashmedai, we'll never figure out everything about Solomon. And so he writes, A boar cannot know, nor can a fool understand this. Have you ever read? Adam actually wrote that. Have you ever read Psalm 92, Song for the Sabbath Day? A boar cannot know, nor can a fool understand this. The boar is the backside, the citra acra. It is known the opposite side is called a boar. He is the backside of a wise person, the secret of the holy king. They are called the ignorant, and they will not know. This is the secret of the holy king. This is the sod, the secret of the backside. The sages did not want to include Ecclesiastes into the Torah, the Tanakh, then decided to include it. They are letting you know front side, back side. They're playing with you. They are playing with you. Of course they were going to include it. But because he gave you the secret of front side, back side, maybe they won't put it in there. But they're going to put it in there. Because it's going to flip on itself every time you touch it. For what can Adam do who comes after the king? Adam Blia'al. What is the substance of Adam? The after, the Blia'al, the backside. The ones that stand opposite the wise king. It has already been done. What does that mean? It was done from the beginning of creation that it would be a thing and its opposite. The Ein Sof and its creation. And also this, corresponding to this, has Elohim made in Genesis. Front and back, you have made me, David writes in Psalms. Now, turn to 7:14 in Ecclesiastes. God has made the one as well as the other, so that man should find nothing after him. That Adam should find nothing after him. He's telling you right there. He's making front side, back side. Now, look at verse 23 right quick. All this I tested with wisdom. I thought I could become wise. It's beyond me. What exists, he's telling you what's over there. What exists is elusive and so very deep. Who can fathom it? So I turned my attention to study and probe and seek and reckoning, and to know the wickedness and folly and the foolishness was his madness. He knows everything there is to know about the other side, because he searched it out with wisdom. In Hagigah, how much time we got? What time?
6:56.
All right, we're almost done. In Hagigah, if you brought Hagigah, if not, it's okay. 15a3. I read in Hagigah 16a1 a while ago about the demons. A lot of stuff about demons in that one. 15a3. If you want to read that, Rebbe Meir is discussing with Elisha ben Abuya, who this is the one that went into the Pardes and became the apostate, the other. They call him the other side. He fell into the other side, the Acher, as in Acharaim, the other side. So he's asking him. The Gemara cites the several incidents involving Acher and the disciple of the Torah studies Rebbe Meir. Acher once asked Rebbe Meir a question after Acher had already strayed from the ways of the bad society. Acher said to Rebbe Meir, what is the meaning of that is written? God has made the one as well as the other. He's fixing to ask him a front side, back side question. Rebbe Meir replied to him, whatever thing is holy, whatever thing the Holy One, blessed be, he created something else corresponding to it. So if God is all good, he's got to create something all bad. It's the way it is. If he's not in it, If he removes himself from it, it's all bad. And he says, he created the mountains, he created the hills. He created the seas, he created rivers, and so on. Acher said to him, this is not what Rabbi Akiva, your teacher, said. Rather, he taught. So right there we have to ask ourselves a question. Does Rebbe Meir not know what Rabbi Akiva said? Why is Rebbe Meir not actually answering him? The opposite of a mountain is really not a hill. The opposite of a mountain is no hill at all. You know? He knows he's already been taken over by the virus. He's revealing and concealing Acher right here in front of us. Rather, he taught that God created a righteous person and he creates a wicked person. He created Gan Eden and he created Gehenna. Each and every person has two portions. One in the Garden of Eden, one in Gehenna. The righteous person merits, he takes the portions of his peers, portions of Gan Eden. When a wicked person becomes guilty, he takes the portions of his peers, portion in Gehenna. They're teaching you the split of the tree of Etzadat Tovarah, good and evil. So demons are in charge. We're going to find out Ashmedai is in control of everything that comes in twos. There's a whole Gemara on righteous, holy rabbis do not accept anything in twos. You can't give them 2 quarters. You'd have to give them 3 or 1. You can't give them 2 apples. You'd have to give them 3, or you can't give them pears. So anyway, there's this whole thing that's going on here, teaching us front side, back side. Rebbe Meir is deflecting the operating system. He knows exactly what he's doing. In chapter in Ecclesiastes 7:23, the Arizal is talking about the paraduma, red heifer, saying how far away the knowledge of this thing is from us. And I did a class on the paraduma and explained that whole thing. I mean, Solomon knew what it was. Solomon acted like he didn't, but he did, right? Because it's the red heifer is the thing that cleanses the other side. That's the paraduma is for the demons and all that stuff. That's what it's for. The 280 fallen sparks that fell to the left at the showering of the vessels. That's the secret of the red heifer. Because it's working only on the backside. It's done outside the temple. Every other thing has to be done inside the temple, except for the paraduma. It's done outside the temple. Why? Because that's the backside at that point. If Solomon's going to build the temple, he's got to control the backside because it's outside the temple. Everything outside the temple is the backside. Everything. Because the temple is a 4D structure that's going to be 3D. It's not supposed to be here. It's on the complete front side. So that's why he's got to control everything. Nothing is done outside the temple except for this. If you take Ab, Sag, Mon, Ben, the 72 name, the 63 name, the 45 name, and the 52 name. If you take the Milui, the middle of that, the Milui of Og, Sag, Mon, Ben, it's par, 280. The fallen sparks of the Tohu. The inner lining of the names of that where the light emanated from the eyes, ears, nose, and mouth of Adam Kadmon. That's how high up this is going. And the 5 final Monotzapach letters, the 5 final letters of the Monotzapach, if you add them up, they're 280 as well. They're the par as well. And the final nun, it looks like a vav that's really long. That is called the serpent or the staff, the nakash. So, Rav Bali says in verse 723, he is warning others about Ashmedai. Solomon sat on the throne of Hashem in Chronicles, and he ruled the Shadim. And when he slipped, the Ruach left. When he slipped, the Shekhinah left. Ashmedai then threw him off the throne and mocked him. His wisdom was far from him. The Arizal says, far from him does not mean it was far from him. It means it's the backside. Far from him is the backside. Looks like I'm fixing to run out of battery. We'll keep that up on there a little bit. That'll give me some charge. I still have a lot. Let's see here. Let's leave the secret of the Shamir for next week. All right? So this week, y'all think about, here's the question. Solomon is obviously working with demons. Why? Why is he doing that? We know, we understand the Hasidim and Guvurot now. What I haven't taught you yet is the levels of demonology and where they are. As, are they angels? Are they not angels? Are they this? Are they that? Etc., etc. We'll do that next week. Also, when they were formed in creation process, we will go over that. And the word Shamir and is very close to the word, I think it's Shemra, which means to keep or to guard, which is keep the commandments, guard them. So there is something going on in the Hasidim and Guvurot world, Bina Ima, mountains, Shamir, female energy, everything's Guvurot. Now, if you can think of something that would remind you of a Shamir, women, light, I'll give you a clue, Esther. The hidden light of Esther. A demon is something that has no light. A Shamir is something that its light can cut stone, can crack a mountain. That's female. That's the Nukva. That's Hava. That's Song of Songs. That's Bathsheba. All these different things, male and female demons, not just male demons, female demons. That is the Queen of Sheba. And then Bithia, the queen of the daughter of Pharaoh of Egypt. He's working on something, and he's building a house for the Shekinah, and it has to use a specific kind of light that only comes through a Shamir. That is then demons are the absence of light. So think on that, and when you think on maybe the super sode of Purim that I've taught before, for those who know will know. But I'll tell you this whole secret of it next week. The Torah is amazing, sages are amazing, and y'all have a great weekend. Shabbat Shalom for tomorrow, and I'll be with y'all next week. I am starting back chiropractic next week, so we'll see how much studying I get to do. I'm still planning on doing every day my lessons, and so you have a great week, guys. I'll check y'all next week. Bye.